Well, here is a guest who has been a friend of mine for a long time. His name is Marty Appel. He is a writer. He has a public relations firm, and I met him when he was the PR director of the Yankees way back. Hello, Marty.
John, so good to be on with you, and even more than that, so great to hear your voice during baseball season. Everything is right with the world.
Well, thank you. I want to tell you something. You know, we met. I got the job in New York at WMCA at the beginning of April, right at the beginning of the baseball season, and a sports talk show on MCA. And so, of course, I would go into Yankee Stadium all the time, and that's when I met you. And I don't know if you know it, but we've now been friends 53 years.
I do know it.
Oh.
In fact, I put it on my Facebook page the other day, alerting people that we were doing this segment. And that's a wonderful thing. I mean, say it, half a century.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had Kevin Lockery on a couple of weeks ago, and we've been friends for 60 years.
Wow.
Going back to Baltimore in 65. Anyway, one thing Marty has done, I asked him the other day when I was booking him for the show, and I said, Marty, how many books have you written? Well, I was blown over. He's written 25 books.
The amazing thing about that is if you had known me in college, you would have seen a student struggling over a 4 or 5 page term paper, sitting there counting the words with the eraser on my pencil, hoping I could get through this. I never thought of myself as a guy who could just write a whole book. And
you've written 25 of them.
Indeed.
Why don't you tell the public some of the big ones? I'd say one book I loved. I was on a cruise, and I read this from cover to cover. It was the one where you did this overview of the Yankees for all their years. It was a great book.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my personal favorite. It's called Pinstripe Empire, the New York Yankees from before the Babe to after the Boss. And it's been updated several times. It's in hardcover, softcover, Kindle, anything imaginable. And it is the definitive history of the Yankees, which I'm so proud of doing. And I remember I got to 1955, which was the year I became a baseball fan. I was 7 years old. And I realized I'm not even halfway through this book, and already I witnessed this stuff. So I lived more than half the book, but researching the rest was great fun.
Well, you told me a story. Remember the drive we had up in New York when we were honored by someone? You told me a story. Now, the Yankees won. Joe DiMaggio came to the Yanks in 36. And boy, did they have a team. After all, Lou Gehrig was still there, and Bill Dickey and Red Ralph and Joe Gordon. They had a heck of a team, and they proved it. They wiped out the American League 4 years in a row, and they won the World Series 4 years in a row. Then they lost in 40. But you have a story about that where, who knows, they might have won another pennant.
Well, they might have won 7 or 8 in a row, if not for 1940, because that interrupted the run. And in 1940, they were in first place going into September. And in a miserable rainy day in Detroit, playing a doubleheader, they botched a double play grounder that Babe Dahlgren didn't field the ball properly at first base. I think he was taking the throw. And that knocked them out of first place. Detroit went on to win the pennant. And Joe McCarthy always felt that if Babe Dahlgren doesn't drop that throw, they'd have won 7 straight pennants.
Wow. Because
Babe.
Sorry, Marty, go ahead.
No, I was saying poor Babe had to live with that, and then the Yankees traded him a year later, and he was always under that reputation for having cost them the pennant.
What I was going to mention is after 40, the year that you're talking about. The Yankees won it all in 41. Then they won the pennant, lost the World Series to the Cards in 42, then won the pennant and won the World Series in 43. That was a pretty good run, huh?
What a good run. We forget because of the environment that we're living in now. In those days, and we're talking about into the 60s and everything, but in those days, they were only competing against 7 teams. And then they'd go right into the World Series. There were no playoffs. So the feat is a little less spectacular than it would be today, I suppose. But back then, they had 7 opponents. They always had the best roster, the best paid roster, and they had the best players and the best managers, and it was like automatic that they would win every year, which is why the rest of the country hated the Yankees.
Right. And you know what? About hating the Yankees, I think it's a badge of honor. A lot of people hate the Yankees for good reason, because they've won. Well, they won they won their first pennant in 21. They won their first World Series in 23, and this is 25 in another century. So they've been good for over 100 years. And Marty, that's outstanding to be that good that long.
Well, I joined them professionally in 1968. My first job was answering Mickey Mantle's fan mail, but I worked there for a long time. I went on to produce the games for WPIX, and there was never a day that I was there that I didn't think, this was where the Babe played, this is where Joe D played, this is where the Mick played. What an honor to be associated with this ball club.
That's why I think I'll tell the story. We have a couple of minutes. That's why I never daydreamed or fantasized, true, I swear, about the Yankees. You know why? It couldn't happen. It's not going to happen. And in September of 88, I came in, I was playing tennis, as a matter of fact. I came in to my apartment, and the phone rang. And it was a fellow named Steve Malsberg, who was a producer at WABC 77. And he said to me, I'm calling because we're going to make a change in the broadcast. Would you be interested? And I said, well, yeah, what's up? He said, well, during the year we have a new general manager, a guy named Fred Winehouse. And I owe a lot to Fred Winehouse. Do I ever? Anyway, Fred Winehouse, ex-minor league infielder, listened to sports. And in the 70s, I had, and Marty, as you know, the Sport Talk show at MCA, and I also did football, basketball, and hockey. So this guy had a lot to listen to. Then in the 80s, I go to Atlanta, and he can see the games on TBS. So I said to him, to Malsberg, I said, well, does he know who I am? And he said, oh, he's a big fan. And do you know, I'm making this long story short, do you know I got the Yankee job without an audition? I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything. And I called up a buddy of mine, a lawyer named Mike DiTomaso, and I said, why don't you call this guy and see if you can make a deal? And he called me a day later and said, we have a 3-year deal. Wow. Isn't that something? Without an audition. And to tell you how crazy this business is, my first market, I was on the air in small stations for a year or two. And then I got a job as a morning man in Providence, morning rock show, by the way. And, and I must have had 4 auditions for that dumb job that paid $110 a week. And I didn't have an audition for the Yanks. Now that's a weird story, right?
But you gave everybody Dion and the Belmonts early in the morning, which was great, right?
Yes. Oh, and I can't think of all the other records. It was rock, but it wasn't bad. It was, more bubblegum rock, I guess, in those days. This was 62, 63. I mean, this was a little while ago. You were just a little shrimp at the time.
It was pre-Beatles, though.
Yes, just.
Wow.
Yeah. It was post the pill. Well, that was another big happening in the 60s. Marty, I've made my views known. We'll get yours. How do you think the Yankees have recovered from losing Soto. I think it's been a great thing for them because Brian Cashman did everything right. But what are your thoughts?
Well, let's appreciate it while it's going on right in front of us. I mean, our memory of last year with Soto, with Cole, was that we suffered all summer complaining about the team, which winds up going to the World Series. But I don't have happy memories of last year. It just seemed like an endless summer of disappointments, and then bang, we're in the World Series. And this year is just a feel-good year. So many unexpected treats coming out of that roster. This has been a delight so far, so I sure hope it continues, of course. But what a contrast to last year, which just felt awful despite going to the World Series.
You know, I did the final week last year.
Yes.
And then the playoffs. In the final week, they lost about every game.
Yeah.
But they still finished first, barely. They finished first. And then in the playoffs, they go through Kansas City and Cleveland and lose to the Dodgers. And Marty, you know this. If they had just made the normal plays in 2 games, they would have flown to L.A. with a 3-2 lead. And they didn't deserve it, but they would have flown to L.A. with a 3-2 lead if they, basically caught the ball. So
right. It was a strange year, and my memory of, because I'll continue, I hope, to still update Pinstripe Empire, so I take notes all the time. And my notes for last year just carried a depression through them, like nothing is working out. What's going on here? And then, bang, they're in the World Series.
Last year, Marty, everything you said is right. That might have been Aaron Boone's best job of managing because that team had a lot of holes. And yet, they, as you say, they made the World Series.
Well, if you follow social media, and I know you don't, everybody wanted Boone fired after the World Series because that's what social media brings out.
Right.
Just like the announcers. Nobody's ever happy with the announcers. You get in a group of 3 or 4 people and you talk about last night's game, and within 45 seconds or so, everybody's critiquing the announcers. So it's like you can't win.
Part of the game.
Part of the game.
And goes with, as they say, the territory.
Right.
Cashman, I wanted, Marty, I wanted Bellinger and Goldschmidt here. Bellinger for 2 years. Last year, I noticed that Goldschmidt had an awful first half. First time he's ever slumped. But then in the second half, he hit much better, and I really wanted both of them, and look what Brian did. He got both of them, and he got Max Fried, who's been maybe the best starter in baseball, one of them anyway, and Devin Williams, who after a terrible beginning has turned it around.
All very true, and, it goes with the landscape and the ebb and flow of a baseball season. If you start off poorly, as Bellinger did, it takes you a while to get that batting average to the point where it should be. If you have a bad couple of weeks in the middle of the season, nobody really notices. They know what you can do, and you can bring it back. But a bad April is hard to dig out of, especially if you're new on the roster and, you're making an impression on new fans.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. What do you think of the team this year? And are you surprised? I think this is a good thing for the Yankees, kind of like the Dodgers, and now the Mets too. You have the 3 big guys in the batting order, but what's happened with the Yankees, we have seen tremendous production from Ben Rice.
Yep.
And Austin Wells, and obviously the biggest surprise, Trent Grisham.
For sure, he's the biggest surprise. To think that he wallowed on the bench all last season where we could barely remember his name when he got into a game, and all of a sudden he's playing like he could make the All-Star team.
Well, one thing about Grisham, I told this to Boone, as a matter of fact, this year, even when he doesn't hit, he hits home runs. And then Boone said to me, and he walks. And, boy, that's awfully important. I want you to do a favor for me, and I want you to send me the updated Pinstripe Empire.
Will do. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, good. I'll be happy to read it.
I'll attend to that Monday morning.
All right.
And can I revisit one quick topic that we just brought up when I mentioned All-Star Game?
Please.
My great disappointment is how the All-Star Game has become a game for those who have had a good April and early May. Instead of giving the fans the all-time greats that were still active that they would love to see and cheer for. So the All-Star Game, to me, has lost its way. When they introduce the players at the start of the game, I probably haven't heard of half of them. And to me, it's like, how did this go astray? This was like the glamour show of the summer, and it's lost its way.
It is, though, by far the best of the All-Star games. Football, basketball, and hockey, they don't have any idea what to do. They flail away at it. And I hadn't thought of about the All-Star game. I'm not really a big All-Star game fan, except I like to see the players and get a kick out of seeing all the players.
Yeah, me too. Cheering Mays Clemente and Aaron and Frank Robinson in those days was what it was all about.
Yeah, it was great, too, when Derek Jeter motioned to Ripken, Cal Ripken, no, you play short, I'll play third. And I thought that was great. Well, Marty, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. As you know, we don't have any problem talking to each other. So I thank you for your time. And
always a pleasure, John. Really wonderful to hear your voice on AM radio in New York. It's a beautiful thing.
I think so.
Summer is official now.
Okay. Thank you, Marty. Be well.
You too.
Thank you.